you aren't actually a terrorist just because a member of Congress from Georgia says you are. There actually has to be evidence provided to support that. That's how our country works. That's how due process works. That's how the rule of law works.
Hey guys, welcome to True Voice. If you're new here, I'm Andrew. So, I just watched this video, and as an American who believes in the Constitution, I'm fired up. Please like and subscribe to see more videos like this. Now let's watch the video.
The president doesn't get to determine that someone is or is not a terrorist. Members of Congress don't get to determine whether someone is or is not a terrorist. But that does not seem to be something that some of my colleagues understand. There's a reason why we have due process in this country, and you may think that due process is not warranted for someone who is not a citizen of this country, or you may think that due process is not warranted for someone who's accused of being a member of a Venezuelan gang or terrorist organization. But once you start going down that slippery slope, then our basic foundations of due process come undone entirely. And I don't understand what the problem is with allowing a neutral arbiter based on evidence to determine whether someone is a terrorist or not. What is the objection that this administration has to presenting evidence to a judge to say, this is the evidence that this person is a member of a particular cartel? What we've seen in one particular case that is top of mind right now is that there's a confidential informant who has said that someone was a member of a foreign gang, a foreign terrorist organization now designated, and that he wore a particular type of baseball hat. There's no corroboration. There's nothing else to corroborate or to confirm what that confidential informant says, at least that has been presented. And I know there are some lawyers on the other side, some former prosecutors on the other side of the aisle who, like me, would never, ever present to a judge a non-corroborated statement from a confidential informant as the basis for establishing anything. And so we're a little off topic, but I did feel I need to address my colleague from Georgia's comments about all of the alleged terrorists who are there are those who are supporting them to stay in. Nobody is supporting any member of a foreign gang to stay in here. We would just like to make sure that people are adjudicated and determined to be a member of a foreign gang by someone other than the President of the United States or a member of Congress. And I yield back.
The gentleman yields. I now recognize Mr. Guest for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, at this time, I would like to yield as much of my time as she may consume to Ms. Greene.
Thank you.
Ladies recognized.
Thank you. I think my colleague across the aisle is very confused and maybe uneducated and uninformed of what a special interest alien is. SIA is a non-U.S. person who is based on an analysis of travel patterns, potentially poses a national security risk to the United States or its interest. Special interest aliens are people from countries identified by the United States government as having conditions that promote or protect terrorism or potentially pose some sort of national security threat to the United States. It's hard for me to fathom that anyone on this committee would be opposed to simply reporting the number of special interest aliens that Homeland, that our great men and women that served as Border Patrol agents, that any of our police, any of our ICE agents happen to detain, and it's just the number. We're just telling the American people how many. That's it.
Would the gentlelady yield for a question?
No, I will not yield. The Department of Homeland Security officials have publicly posted information about special interest aliens in the past, including the current Border Patrol chief and his predecessor. Custom and Border Protection already published similar numbers on its public site. For example, the terrorist screening data set. And just to go further, and this is always an interesting dynamic to me. On our side of the aisle, we trust the American people, and we believe they deserve transparency. They deserve the truth from the federal government, because it is, after all, that we swore an oath to serve the American people. And the American people are the taxpayers that pay all of our paychecks. They pay for this building. They fund this government, even though the government has plunged them into $36 trillion in debt and opened up the borders for the past 4 years and allowed it to be flooded with illegal aliens. And then the Biden administration gave them Social Security numbers. You see, this that we are trying to pass today, and we would love to have your participation. We would enjoy and really would thank you for caring about transparency and providing information to the American people that so deserve it, instead of arguing back and forth and watching you all defend special interest aliens, defend terrorists who have come in our country, and defend dangerous, violent cartels who have been deported out of our country. I know too many people that have been murdered by cartels. I know too many people, and I know their families, and have watched them mourn because they have a family member that was killed by illegal alien crimes or murdered by an illegal alien or a cartel member. This should be a simple conversation. We are all Americans, and we serve this country, not foreign countries. And that should be a simple fact that we can all recognize, not have political disagreements about. Congress, by the way, has previously released information as it relates to special interest aliens through hearings and committee reports, including the October 3rd, 2024 report from the House Judiciary Committee titled "The Biden-Harris Border Crisis: At Least 1.7 Million Potential National Security Threats." DHS has an obligation to the American people to be as transparent as possible. We owe it to the American people to be as transparent as possible. This is not targeting some innocent migrant or someone that is seeking to be a citizen of the United States. We're talking about special interest aliens, potentially terrorists, people who are linked to terrorist organizations, people who share their travel patterns, people that all of us should not want in the United States, and the American people don't want them here either. This isn't giving their name. This isn't telling what country they're from. This isn't giving their address. This isn't saying where they work. This isn't saying anything. It's not showing their picture. It's simply saying how many came across the border each month. It's very simple, Mr. Chairman. I yield back the remainder of my time.
Gentlelady yields. All right. So let me just say this. I want us to all debate this, but let's debate the bill as much as we can. I get it that we want to make comments about what's going on, but let's debate the bill, please.
I appreciate the lesson that Ms. Greene was trying to pass on to me, but as somebody who prosecuted organized criminal enterprises for 10 years, I can tell you that this kind of information only helps the enemy. It does not stop them. And it's bad enough that you're misrepresenting what your bill says, but it's even worse than the fact that the information that's being provided will help the enemy and will do nothing to help keep our homeland secure. So I wish that, A, we had an accurate representation from the sponsor of this bill as to what it is, and B, that if it were actually that, we'd be having a very different discussion.
Folks, due process isn't optional. It's the cornerstone of our democracy. The idea that any politician, let alone Marjorie Taylor Greene, can just label people terrorists without evidence, that's not patriotic. That's authoritarian. We don't abandon our values because someone looks suspicious or comes from a certain country. We're better than that. If someone is a legitimate threat, prove it in court. Present the evidence. Let judge decide. That's how justice works in America. What Greene is pushing is fear wrapped in a flag. Reporting special interest aliens sounds neutral until you realize it's about creating a public enemy without a trial, without rights. That's not transparency. That's scapegoating. And let's be real, this isn't about national security. It's about pushing a narrative that immigrants are dangerous, so they can distract from real problems like corporate corruption, underfunded schools, and healthcare. If we let politicians bypass the courts and decide guilt based on vibes, we destroy the very freedoms we claim to protect. That's not how patriots defend this country. We defend it by standing up for the rule of law, for everyone. Stay smart, stay principled, and don't let fear kill freedom.